For the headline, President Biden did have a press conference. This was the longest period the public, the press corps, had ever waited between inauguration and the president actually holding a press conference. And President Biden finally did agree to take questions, kind of, because by all appearances, he knew who he was going to call on. The people who were going to be called on knew that they were going to be called on, and the questions were kind of anticipated. So is that a press conference? I don't know. But he was asked about, one of the things he was asked about was the filibuster, and this has been a big story because the Senate is thinking about doing away with it to ram through their priorities. And here's what President Biden had to say about the filibuster.
We've got to get to the place where I get 50 votes so that the Vice President of the United States can break the tie, or I get 51 votes without her. And so I'm going to say something outrageous. I have never been particularly poor at calculating how to get things done in the United States Senate. So the best way to get something done, if it holds near and dear to you that you like to be able to, anyway, we're going to get a lot done.
Well, that was clear as mud, wasn't it? If you can understand what that means about President Biden's interpretation of his position on the filibuster, then you are smarter than I am. But he also had to say something to say about another issue that's maybe the top issue so far in his presidency, and that's what's going on at the border. He was asked about the border, and here's what he had to say on that.
Truth of the matter is, nothing has changed. As many people came, 28% increase in children to the border in my administration, 31% in the last year in 2019 before the pandemic in the Trump administration. It happens every single solitary year. There is a significant increase in the number of people coming to the border in the winter months of January, February, March.
That was President Biden on the border. I'm not exactly sure what to make of all of that either, but to help us sort this out, we hope, is Congressman Brian Babin, who's been to the border, who has been thinking about the border, and who represents a state that is on the border. Congressman Babin, thank you for joining us.
Great to be with you, Joseph.
Well, we are glad to have you. Maybe you can offer some clarity. I don't know if you had a chance to listen or watch the press conference today, but did you learn anything?
No, I didn't learn much of anything. And to go 64 days for a president, to go 60 with 47 years of government service, to go 64 days without a press conference is just unheard of. And quite frankly, I was very, very disappointed in the press conference. It really was a big bunch of nothing. He didn't take any hardball questions at all. He took none from any conservative outlets. There were pre-screened questions from Democrat-friendly media. And so, who else is surprised about it? And, Biden is back doing his thing again. And I was very disappointed. It didn't really clear up anything. He seemed to blame Trump for many of the problems on the border. You just played one of his statements there about Trump, and he said every president has had these spikes and people coming across the border. Yes, Trump had his in 2019, but let me tell you, he implemented policies and negotiated with Mexico and the Northern Triangle countries. And he had some really smart folks that worked for him, and I've dealt with them as the co-chairman of the House Border Security Caucus. And he had that border under control more than anything that I've seen in decades. So, it is a Biden-created problem on the border. We're going down there. I'm taking some about 12 of my Texas colleagues, members of the House. We're going down there to see for ourselves, and at this point in time, we have 15 to 16,000 illegal juveniles, unaccompanied juveniles and children in custody, are well on track to be the highest in history, and it all at the expense of the American taxpayer, and coming in with COVID positive cases during a pandemic and in a recession, it is really a very, very really dire situation going on. I've talked to Border Patrol agents, and I'll be glad to talk to you about that as well.
Yeah, well, I do want to hear about that. You are the co-chairman of the Congressional Border Security Caucus, so this is something that you have studied, you've been working on, you've been to the border many times. You mentioned the change in just recent months with the transition of the administrations, and you say it's a Biden-created problem. Can you be specific about what you mean by that? What has he done that has changed the situation on the border?
Absolutely, I'll tell you, he has done away with the migrant protection protocols to remain in Mexico that he worked out with President Lopez Obrador, where people coming up here, they used to just step across the border and say, "I'm seeking asylum," and then they run them through and then turn them loose into the country, and this has now gone by the wayside. Even President Lopez Obrador is calling Biden the migrant president, and even alluded to the fact that he's empowering and enriching the Mexican drug cartels. We keep hearing from from Secretary Mayorkas and President Biden that the so-called inhumanity, the inhumane conditions, the cruelty of the Trump administration, keeping kids in cages, also keeping them far longer than normal. And we look and see some of the comments of both Mayorkas, Biden, and also Vice President Kamala Harris, who was when asked if she was going to the border, and she gave this cackle and laughed at that like it was something really funny. And then when you look at some of her comments when she was a candidate running for president, and she says ICE was the equivalent of the Ku Klux Klan. She wanted to cut detention facilities of 50% of their beds. She said if you held an unaccompanied child over 72 hours, it was inhumanity. And now I wonder if she would say the exact same thing now. I seriously doubt it. But, we're seeing that President Biden has kind of turned over the border situation to Kamala. And I just wonder if she will answer questions in a press conference to some of the things that she has said in the past. It's just a very dire situation. Border Patrol agents, the morale of them are going straight down. And then some of them are even quitting on the job. And you might have two Border Patrol agents taking care of hundreds of unaccompanied children. I'll give you one example. This was a quote from an anonymous Border Patrol agent down in Donna, Texas, and talking about one of their facilities. They used to be called cages, when President Trump was in office. Now they're facilities for influx and care. But Pod 3A says, this is a quote, designed to hold 80 people. And on this day, he says, we have 694 unaccompanied juveniles and children in this facility. This is an 867% overcapacity of this detention space.
Now, I have a question for you about those, because those are dramatic increases. Now, I don't know if there's a way to prove this, if it's anecdotal, but what's your sense of, are these children who just got a sense of we can go now, so we will? Are coyotes involved in this? Are the cartels involved in this?
Yes.
What is this something they're choosing to do?
Nobody, Joseph, nobody comes across that border unless they are paying the cartels or they are working for the cartels. You will lose your life if you do not do business with the cartels. That's the way this thing works. They have coyotes that carry them in. They've got scouts that are up on the hills. They'll bum rush the border, create a diversion, open up a gap when they pull people off the line, Border Patrol agents, and then where the gap is, they send their drugs and their human trafficking right through that area. And let me just say this. The Biden administration absolutely is failing the American people. And the governor of Texas is saying that he's going to send people down there and has been. But it's time to really send some forces down to the border, step up and step into the gap created by the lack of enforcement, really the violation of immigration laws by the Biden administration, and start protecting the American people, protect us from crime, from terrorism. A number of these people have been on the terrorist watch list that have come through. We know that the average border crosser has got several convictions or pending charges against them in other countries, or even here for repeat offenders that are deported and then come back. And then that's another thing. Stopping this, another thing that Biden did was to put a freeze on all deportations, which kills the interior enforcement lever that we have to prevent these and incentivization of these people to continue to keep coming.
Well, you have given us a good description of this, and I know there's so much more to say. We're going to have you back on to discuss this, but we do appreciate your passion for this and also your knowledge, because it is helpful. Congressman Brian Babin, thank you so much for your time.